Hey campers, Georgia, back in the man cave. Just going through my knives. Came across this guy. See that? It's a queen fish knife. Let's check it out. Just wiping it off for you. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, right? It's a very nice fish knife. I wasn't sure where I got it from, but I'm pretty sure it came from Keith. And he had given it to me and said, you know, here's an unusual knife. I know you like fish knives. And I put it aside and forgot about it. Then I was digging in my box looking for a project, looking through some stuff, organizing, and came across this. Queen knives. Wow. I did some digging and had a look at their history, and it's pretty interesting. Some interesting stuff on this guy too. So let's have a closer look. So I'll show you the information on it. It is etched on the blade, and it says Queen Steel, pound 46. The tang stamp, if you look there, is this the Q steel, which makes it this old, which surprised me because it's in good condition. Look at it, right? All I did was wiped it off. All I did was went on Google and typed in Queen Knives number 46. Well, apparently they're pretty general about that number. The number 46, it's a fish knife. They don't call it a fisherman or anything like that. They call it a fish knife. And as you can see, it's pretty traditional. Has that long sweeping clip on it. And of course your fishing tool, right? This guy, they call it a fish hook gorger. Degorger. I thought they were two different things. Fish hook remover and a degorger. I don't know. Am I pronouncing that right? Who knows? And then of course this huge clip, scale remover, bottle opener. All the important things, right? Well, this one has something extra that the other ones don't. See here? See this little thing? See that? It's a sharpening stone for your hooks. Now all of them don't have that. Didn't know that. When I looked them up, I found this. Yeah, different 46s. Huh. The difference is, some have this, some have different scales. Now this scale on this one here is that winter bottom bone. That's what they call it. But this is the imitation, I believe. I'm not sure, because between you and me, I can't tell. But it's pretty cool, and Queen is really well known for that. And they used originally, just about all their knives had winter bottom bone on it. And winter bottom bone came from a specific manufacturer, Winterbottom, that had this knife. You know, you'll see Queen all have this handle. They also did Delrin, they did imitation, and mother of pearl, and they kind of had two different kinds of that. So pretty interesting. And having looked at this knife, I was like, you know, wow, I can see why Queen knives were so popular. So I thought, I'm going to look a little bit harder at this and see what I can come up with. Well, I came across a website that had the whole history, all sorts of information. It's a great one, and I'll put a link below so you can have a look at it. I'll go through some of the stuff, the highlights that I found. Now, I'm an old guy. My memory ain't what it used to be. But I make notes. Normally save information, copy paste it, put all the information I find that's pretty useful, and put it on a piece of paper so I can refer to it. That's what I got here. Queen Cutlery, which is what it's known as today, Queen Cutlery, which is how we know it today, was called Queen City Cutlery, had the city in it. And they were actually a company called Morgan Cutlery Company. They were an import house, so they imported stuff like steel and things like that. They were around in like 1895, way back. In 1890 something, they purchased the Platt Cutlery plant in New York. And that's where they settled into and started producing knives. They actually did pretty good. They really did well. The First World War kind of boosted them, as did for a lot of knife companies. And they kind of survived. Then they had to go through that whole, the Depression, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of knife companies struggled with it. And then, they had the influenza. And a couple of other things actually happened to them. They couldn't find workers because of the scarcity of workers after World War I. Yeah, that's how bad that was. They had the influenza, they lost people there, and they really struggled. And one of those things that they had a problem with, there were 5 employees that they found were doing side work on the side and selling knives. And they fired them. There were 5 of them, and they fired them, and they left. Well, those 5 guys started their own company. Yep, Queen City Cutlery. And they became a main competitor for Morgan. Eventually, Morgan got into trouble. Bankruptcy, that sort of thing. And yep, Queen City bought him. So those 5 employees that they fired eventually came around and bought the company and moved on from there. I believe that was like what did they say? 1933 was round about then when they came back and bought him, and were very successful. They had the ups and downs like all the other companies out there, and it has a long history, a very long history. They were actually around with their ups and downs and everything all the way to 1970, right? And eventually the control of the company got out of the families of those 5 original guys. What happened was they got into trouble, bankruptcy, that sort of thing. And they got bought. And the company that bought them was Servotronics out of Buffalo, New York. And they bought them and took it over and changed the way they were doing things. Obviously, Queen City had been doing all they can to keep afloat, cutting corners, that sort of thing, tried different stuff, but they failed. Yeah, Servotronics Corporation bought them and changed things, and moved on from there. And they owned Queen until 2012. Here's the cool thing. They continued to own the Ontario Knife Company. Didn't know that. Gets even better. They were associated with Robeson as well. Didn't know that. So if you look at just those 3 companies, Queen, Ontario, and Robeson, well-known, very popular makers, very sought-after knives. So I can see why Queen, by the way, they changed from Queen City to Queen, I believe, around about when Servotronics bought them. And the whole history, very typical of all the knife makers back then, changing hands, sold, bought, going bankrupt, bought by bigger corporations, and just came into a big corporation and got lost in that big corporation. Eventually, most of them went away. You got Imperial, Schrade, you got Queen City, went to Servotronics and became Queen Cutlery Company. You know, all these histories, look at them all. Surprisingly, Colonial Knife survived on their own forever. They're still around. And that was owned by a little family that have got it this far. How they did it, nobody knows, because they never kept any records. Probably why. Another interesting fact that I found was that Queen Steel, which was one of their tang stamps and a thing they came out with, there was a lawsuit with Henry Sears and Company. And the way they got around that was they changed it to Q Steel instead of saying Queen Steel, because apparently Henry Sears had the patent on the name, or whatever you call it, of Queen Steel. So that was interesting. I think eventually they won that by going around and buying and registering patents and everything in like 48 states, and eventually they just were allowed to use Queen Steel again. So you know, if you look at the history of the tang stamps, how it changed, things like that affected their tang stamps. They couldn't say Queen Steel, they had to say Q Steel. A little bit of history on Queen Steel. Queen Knives, look at this guy. And this is probably one of the better fishermen I own. It's very well made. It's one of the bigger ones. Let me get mine. Got me a tape measure. Yep. Let's have a look at some of the dimensions of this beastie. So, closed, bolster to bolster, right? A blistering exactly 5 inches. Closed. See that? We'll go with the bigger knife. It only has one blade, so that's what we'll go with. Lengthwise, we'll check the other one. So bolster to the tip of the knife. Wow. 8 3/4. Yeah, it's long. You can see it in my hand there. It's a big one. Very nice. And that blade, right from the bolster to the tip, is 4 inches, well, just under. If you look at the working edges, 3.5. So from the tip right up to the choil here is 3.5 inches. You've got that huge sweep, which is what you need to clean fish, right? Of course, this Winterbottom bone, you can see that. Now, I'm pretty sure this is imitation, but hey, I could be wrong. You know, it's from 58 to 60. Makes it pretty old, and I'm wondering if it is real, but like I said, I don't know enough there. The tool, obviously, is very nice. It has that scaler, the hook, the gorger, and of course, every fisherman's dream, the bottle opener. So, very nice knife. Stainless steel blades. And that reminds me, Queen were one of the first, if not the first, to start using stainless steel blades. They made a pretty big deal about it. Of course, it has this one in particular, this number 46 actually has that hook sharpener on it. Now, I've got one question and I couldn't find any information about it, but if you look closely here, can you see it? What is that for? Personally, I'm thinking you can put your hook in there, hold it and tie it off. That's the only thing I could think of. There's no hole on the other side, it's just on one side here. So maybe you know. Anybody knows? Comments below. Let me know. It'll be interesting to find out. Now obviously this knife is in excellent condition. I'm not going to do anything. Like I said, I just wiped it off and it'll go into my collection. I have, I think, 4 Queen knives. One day I'm going to go through my collections. Maybe I should show them to you guys. I don't know if that's something you want to see. And, you know, The other problem I'm dealing with is, do I go by manufacturer or do I go by style? I'm still trying to store my knives. I just don't know. What do you guys do? So there you are. Fish knife number 46. Nickel silver bolsters, stainless steel blades, and of course your winter bottom, and then your brass liners, and you can see them there. See that? Very nice knife. I wonder if it's sharp. I'm going to cut up my info sheet. Let's see. Well, not bad. Probably should have stropped it for you before doing that, but look at that. Huh. And how long has this been sitting around, right? Wow. Beautiful knife. Great item to add to my collection. Never really thought about Queen. Never thought it'd be associated with like Ontario and Robeson. Who knew, right? So there you go. 20 minutes you're never going to get back. But I thought you might find it interesting. Very, very cool. You all be safe out there. Especially when you're out fishing and you're hungry and you catch a fish. Long, sharp, and shiny. Just saying. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. You know the story. Pretty sure I'll be back. I need to go through my knives. I forget about these things. I get caught up with restoring knives. Like I want to do this one. Yeah, it's another fish knife. Why? It says fish knife on it. Needs to be cleaned up. And it's made by that famous manufacturer that we all know. So look for that video. Working on some stuff for the future. Keep that in mind. And as always, thanks for watching. Always, always appreciate it. We'll see you again soon.